the poet of light and silence, Camille Corot. One morning in 19th century Paris, a young man named Camille Corot stood on the Pont des Arts, staring at the Seine. The mist had just begun to rise, softening the outlines of bridges, boats, and distant rooftops. He suddenly understood. What he wanted to paint was not the world itself, but that moment when the world begins to blur. Corot was born in 1796 into a family of wealthy fabric merchants. His parents hoped he would take over the business, but he had little interest in commerce. "I would rather be poor and free," he said, and so he began to paint quietly, almost secretly, while others his age were already chasing fame and fortune. At first, his father was furious. Later, seeing his persistence, he gave in and offered him a modest allowance. That allowance became Corot's only steady income throughout his life. He wasn't a rebel by nature. His manner was gentle, almost shy. But beneath that calm surface lived a profound defiance, a refusal to be swallowed by noise. He believed that painting should be like breathing, natural, necessary, and silent. In the 1,820 seconds, Corot traveled through Italy. Standing before the sun-drenched hills of Rome, he was awed but uneasy. He painted the ruins and olive trees, but the Mediterranean light felt too harsh for his temperament. "My eyes are made for the mist of the north," he once wrote. When he returned to France, his palette cooled gray, silver, pale green, the tones of dawn and twilight. That became the language of Corot. He spent most of his life wandering the countryside, Fontainebleau, Ville-d'Avray, Normandy, carrying a small easel and a box of oil paints. Villagers often saw him sitting by the lake before sunrise, waiting for the fog to move. Sometimes he painted only a few strokes before packing up, whispering, "Enough, the air is gone." Corot's paintings seemed simple: a few trees, a pond, a figure walking away. But every shape, every patch of light was carefully balanced. He wasn't interested in grand narratives or dramatic scenes. What he sought was harmony, the delicate vibration between light and shadow, form and silence. "When I can paint the air," he said, "I will truly have painted the landscape." For decades, critics ignored him. His muted grays were considered dull, his soft outlines unfinished. At the same salons where Delacroix's colors burned and Ingras's lines gleamed, Corot's quiet canvases seemed out of place. Yet, he never fought back. He simply continued to paint, year after year, in his small studio filled with the scent of turpentine and damp linen. Only when he was past 60 did the world begin to understand. Younger painters, Monet, Pissarro, even Cézanne visited him and called him master. They saw in his misty trees and shimmering reflections the birth of something new, the idea that light itself could be the true subject of painting. Pissarro once said, "Without Corot, there would be no Impressionism." Corot smiled at such praise, but he never claimed the title. "I only tried to be sincere," he said. In his later years, Corot became known as Papa Corot. He donated money to struggling artists, visited them in their studios, and sometimes left small envelopes of cash at their doors. When asked why he helped so many, he replied softly, "Because I know what solitude costs." He never married. His constant companions were his easel, the northern sky, and the silver light that never stopped changing. When he died in 1875, a letter was found on his desk that read, "The most beautiful things in the world are those we see only half clearly." Today, when we look at his paintings, those tranquil lakes, those blurred trees dissolving into mist, it feels less like looking at a scene than entering a memory. In each quiet brushstroke, there's a kind of forgiveness, of time, of imperfection, of the world's relentless pace. Corot taught us that serenity is not emptiness, and silence is not absence. In the trembling of light on water, he found eternity.